Sir, thank you so much for joining in. Thank you so much. Well, moving forward for the next panel discussion, I would like to request our panelists to please kindly come up on the stage and join us. I request Mr. Vikram R Singh, the founder and CEO of Enter Solutions, to please kindly come up on the stage and join us. Along with them, I would like to request Mr. Partap Krishan Aggarwal, founder and CEO of IDS Infotech, to please kindly come up on the stage and join us with a big round of applause, everyone. Along with them, I would like to request Mr. Anuj Aggarwal, Director at Altruist Technologies Pvt Limited, Dependo Logistics, and co-founder of Altruist Hotels. And the one thing I like to announce on the stage, that is, I hate polythene. I think this is something really amazing I read in the bio after a long run. And one more, I would like to request Mr. Munish Jauhar, founder and CEO of GrayCell Technologies, to please kindly come up on the stage and join us. Everyone, can we have a big round of applause for all the dignitaries, those who are on the stage. Over to Mr. Munish.
यार ये देखना Good afternoon. So we have an excellent panel with us today. The topic is rather large though. Indigenous innovation, global impact, founders who made it happen. But we have a great panel. So I'll take a minute before I kick off, kind of doing a brief intro on each founder's company so that we can set the context for the topic. And I'm going to move in alphabetical order. So first, representing Altruist, we have Anuj Aggarwal. Altruist, we have a pioneer in digital transformation and business process outsourcing. Altruist has successfully scaled a highly diverse portfolio ranging from IT, telecom platforms to logistics and hospitality, building a massive footprint that spans across Asia, Europe, and Africa. Next, from Antares, we have Vikram. We have a true global leader in providing Web3 infrastructure layer, from stable coins issuance platforms to asset tokenization, helping corporates and financial institutions launching new revenue streams. And finally, we have the OG from IDS Infotech, Partap sir. We have a true global leader working closely with major OEMs and tier 1-2 organizations across sectors such as aerospace, semiconductors, automotive, consumer electronics, and other high-tech industries in the space of AI ML for industrials over the past 5 years. In addition, they offer AI assurance and governance for regulated enterprises such as healthcare, life sciences, and insurance, enabling safe deployment of AI at scale by ensuring outputs are accurate, auditable, and compliant, all built on a strong foundation of over 35 years of data management and engineering manufacturing experience. They have built a formidable presence across US, Europe, and UK, leveraging highly successful cross-border joint ventures to drive growth, innovation, and scale. So, that's a lot. So we'll start off with you, Anuj. My first question, because this has been rather interesting, and we've been hearing a lot in the industry locally as well. You have kind of built your company over time. You started out with IT, BPO basically, and then gradually through the acquisition process, you've been scaling and diversifying into multiple businesses, right? So again, it's been a remarkably diverse portfolio, logistics, hospitality. For founders in our audience trying to build scalable export-ready business models, did diversification happen naturally as you entered new global markets, or was it a deliberate risk reduction strategy?
I think I couldn't make out the question.
Sorry. I was saying, was your diversification basically a gradual process, or was it a risk strategy that you started out?
Okay. So, I hope everyone has understood the question. So, it was a gradual process. Manish is asking about our diversification, that we started with an IT company and moved into hospitality, logistics, BPO, telecom hardware, telecom tower infrastructure. So all this transition has been gradual. Reason being that we started with an IT company, but very soon we realized that this is not something which would last our generations. Uh, the, the world is very dynamic, and now we are seeing that with AI coming in, that IT is not a long-term play. So we thank God that we have been able to diversify, and we kept on acquiring. First, we acquired companies which were similar to us, which the space we understood well. And then when our team was able to integrate the acquired companies well, the team was in process, then we started acquiring other companies. The first the other company was a BPO company from UK. Then second was a BPO company from Goenka family. The third one was from Hinduja Global. So we acquired three BPOs, integrated them. We saw that, yes, our team is now able to integrate with non-core businesses as well. And then we started acquiring logistics, hospitality, and different domains. It was a gradual process.
So in terms of gradual, like you were saying, logistics and hospitality, was that a thought out kind of thing that, from IT into logistics and then into hospitality, or did the opportunity kind of present and you jumped in?
Yeah, it was all what came on the way. When Corona came, hospitality was very badly hit. So the valuations were very right for acquiring a business. In Corona, when that company, which was the leader, which was number one hostel company of India, that is called Oxford Cabs, which had zero revenue. So hence, zero valuation. That at that time we went ahead and acquired that business because we knew the time will come and market will stabilize, and only these core businesses will sustain after this IT wave.
Sure. Vikram, so you have built basically a world of blockchain, which is a global company all across. Now, Indian deep tech companies basically have a lot of, when it comes to kind of pitching abroad, credibility issues, right? At times people say, would you like to kind of set up with this company? So how did you kind of build that trust with the global giants and get them to trust you with your mission critical operations?
First of all, I must admit that you're not audible actually. So it looks like the voice is coming from that side.
Okay.
Yeah, very difficult to hear.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Better now?
Thoda ja better hai.
No, wait.
You have to repeat that question.
Huh?
It's very difficult to hear actually.
Okay. So again, let me try again. Can you hear now?
Yes.
Better? So, okay. So you've created a name in the world of blockchain, not only in India, but globally. How can Indian deep tech startups overcome the initial credibility hurdle and convince global giants to trust them for mission critical operations? Can you run us through that and what challenges you faced and how did you address them?
Okay, so first of all, thanks for repeating, and I hope you guys are not facing the same problem but we are facing over here in terms of listening. But yeah, so our blockchain journey started in 2017, and I would say like the very first thing which is very important is the conviction of the founder, right? So like in order to like create a niche in a technology where you don't have the right talent available in the region, then you have to create your own kind of nurture your own talent. So that is the one challenge. But how you mitigate that challenge, how to overcome that challenge is like because at the end of the day you have to have the courage to also invest heavily on something which is kind of coming up or maybe not having that much of acceptance in the market, but at the same time you are kind of taking the revenues from the consistent services business and then spending on the innovation side. So coming back to your courage, the credibility part, like so I think the very simple way which has got that timeless I would say accreditation, that you simply go to a customer with a kind of a POC in your hand and let him try that and win his trust. That is the one straightforward way of like how you can reduce his risk, why he will work with you, number one. And number two, like you can piggyback somebody else's trust, which suppose like trust is already there. You can work with the system integrator, you can work with a like a partner, local partner where the trust is already established, and you can simply work with them and create the the trust again, onto your brand. And third, last but not least, I would say which I believe the founder from this region is also needs to do. Create your own brand. Like you have to invest onto your own brand for whatever your thought process you are having or whatever direction you are taking for the company. You need to write that on maybe onto the LinkedIn, maybe onto the Twitter. Start building your brand first, so that before your salesperson goes to a customer, he must have had read the CTO of that company must have had read you, maybe onto the social media. So that these are the few things. And but coming back to the challenges part, I would say the most important thing is the conviction first, right? You must have the conviction that whatever you are trying to do, and this is will going to work in the future. So that's the approach we took, and you can't outsource this thing to a maybe a employee, right? Until unless he has the skin in the game. You have to lead it yourself, and you have to be ready for all the challenges, all the sleepless nights you have to spend. So this is very important, but at the same time, I believe one of the most important quality of a founder is the learning part, the curiosity to learn, and more you will learn, more and more you will be able to connect the dot like how the things are shaping. So that's a
So, again, a question, follow-up question was, you started out as pure play services, right? And then you kind of narrowed down your scope and started focusing on blockchain and Web3, basically. Why that transition, and when did that transition kind of happen?
Okay, so it's a very interesting story, because in 2017, we bought a building in Phase 8B, and we used to be 75 people team at that point of time. And that made me to think what should be my next growth driver, right? And when I looked around, these digital currencies were making a lot of noise. And when I dwelled deeper into it, I was completely sold out, why it was invented. So this is where I think the difference was, so when you believe this, because blockchain is not just a technology, it's a methodology basically, how you can shift the trust onto the machine and how you can remove the human, because at the end of the day, trust is the basic foundation through which the society works, the business relationship work. And when you can shift that trust to the technology, I'm kind of referring to the digital currency, wherein you can, make it a programmable as well. For example, all the use cases which are you must be aware about, the kind of possibilities we can achieve, through the smart contracts. So that was the reason. So that was the day. Then we thought how we can grow further from here on. And then when I went deeper into this thing, we started steering the entire organization towards the blockchain initiative. And as we the good thing happened, we evolved with this space, from building exchange platform to various things. But one more thing which is very important over here, I would say, you need to go deeper into this into building this strength as well, because trends will come and trends will go. For example, there used to be trends of NFTs, there used to be trends of DeFi. None of them survived. But the only thing which survived was the deep tech knowledge or engineering about the protocols, protocol engineering. And I think, and that is also one of our biggest source of revenue as well. So building the deep expertise in one particular area is very important, so that you never get displaced. And coming back to your point of pivoting, so blockchain was of course the pivoting point, but we also realized the opportunity that the kind of use case which will evolve when the money becomes programmable.
Thank you. Pratap sir, so
No. Go for
am
it.
I audible now before I start? Yeah. So IDS has successfully utilized joint ventures throughout. You have IDS Argus Healthcare with a US partner, Indo-Dutch Engineering in Europe to drive cross-border innovation. How crucial are these strategic alliances for Indian MSMEs looking to enter international markets, and what makes a cross-border JV successful?
You talk about the two joint ventures. I think just backstep a little bit on that. So we, in real sense, in 37 years of doing the business here, I built 4 joint ventures. 2 succeeded, which you mentioned, 2 of them, and 2 failed. So I think important for you to backstep. We don't talk about the 2 on anywhere, so you don't know the other 2. The 2 failed because they were very transactional. The 2 succeeded because they became strategic, because we had a longer view to that. That's one very quick answer to that part. I think why we go into the joint venture, where we go into joint venture. One of the parts is both of them were our clients. Both of them were our regular clients, plus 5 years clients. And then we proposed. Idea was one very simple: market access. Can we give a market access in your geography, which we don't know that well as we can do with you? What is like to convince them to do that part has to be there has to have a lot of money for them available. There should be upside for them also in that part. So one was market access. The second aspect which came in which I realized over the times, the compliance part. The compliance and trust go hand in hand there. And then if you go to the market in their new geography, like Netherlands, the compliance, I had to, because of the partner, I never had to worry about the compliance requirements. The learning curve is very fast, but they're already there. They can exist and they can take you very quickly to that part. So in real sense, market accessibility opens up, compliance opens up, your trust build up come out quickly. So there's no trust deficit, which are required to enter into your geography. So these three things, and then coupled with they have the domain knowledge. So I give example, you talk about engineering company. I had no idea about precision engineering before I started. We went there to sell software engineering, like normal software. But now we understand industrial so well. We understand they work for aerospace, they work for defense, they work for semicon, how they do for ASML, supply chain. Now we understand the domain because of them, which we can apply all over the world. So learning the domain from a JV partner could be a very good objective. Talk about AI. None of them were initially keen to talk about AI. Sorry, bringing that line to that part. But they said, hey, look, focus on the domain with us first. AI will imbibe and they will give us. So it's a very good experimentation ground. If you have something good, you can go to them and say, look, we can run a pilot with you. So another JV partner is also a very good experimental ground for you. You can build POCs with them because there's no risk in that part. They're willing to work with you there. So these are a few things which I thought I'd bring in, which keep you closer. But the ones which I told you failed were purely transactional. We saw an opportunity, let's build a joint venture, let's bid for it, let's go together. Those don't work.
Interesting. Thank you. Anuj, again, just checking, because basically my question is multi-region adaptation. So you build businesses all across the world now, right? And you build businesses in different domains as well, right? IT, BPO, hospitality, logistics. So how do you kind of adapt your offerings to fit the culture and infrastructural realities basically in such different areas? And how do you kind of manage all of this together?
So the good thing about Altruist, what we have been able to do while expanding geographically is that we think from a mindset of a small company, not from a conglomerate which we are today with the 18,000 people. So when we start any geography, any country, we send one guy with a clear diktat that he is the tech guy, he is the business guy, he is the compliance guy, and he has to do everything. So when he goes there, he has all the empowerment. He has every resource available here in India to help him with whatever help he needs. But he takes the decision because he is there on that land. He picks up the nuances of that place and communicates with us. So the system is very fast. If we go with all big bang, then all red tapeism would come into the play and we will not be able to expand that fast, which it requires to do.
So again, although now, Vikram, back to you, Pratap sir did touch upon this. Again, in your domain, there is a lot of fragmented regulation worldwide, right? It's very, very hard to kind of manage compliances. So what is your practical advice for startups and our audience basically on managing such complex cross-border compliance without slowing down kind of your work and innovation?
Okay, so what worked in our case, so we focus on the technologies, those modules which are common to each and every jurisdiction. For example, if you're building an exchange platform, then there are some modules which will stay always, essential element wherever you are launching them, right? And you also need to understand the customers as well. For example, like when you are dealing with a customer, maybe in Southeast Asia, their choices might be like the criteria might be like UI, UX or speed. But if you are dealing with the customers in like US or maybe any other Western countries, so they put a lot of emphasis on the compliances layer, like how it is being handled. So what we did, like earlier, we again JV kind of approach. We had we kind of like a partner with some like legal firms which brought that, the skills on the table, like there. The technology was already there. So as and when we kept working with the customers from the different jurisdictions. So we kept, putting those regulatory layers, separately on different, versions of the product. So that's the one thing which we did, and which worked very well. And after a few years, then we had our own, GC in-house, so that we could understand how the things are changing. For example, in US, you have seen the Genius Act has now passed, and it has regularized all these stable coins, kind of like, which are existing in the world, and have kind of like unlocked the opportunity of like a stable coin based infrastructure for all the financial markets. And at the same time, if you look at the MiCA, kind of regulations in Europe, so the whole world is like, looking at the tokenization opportunities. And same kind of the stuff happening in Gift City in India as well, which has provided us the sandbox environment so that we can do those kind of use cases which are not kind of like mentioned in the SEBI's guideline.
So you're actually kind of leveraging Gift City to kind of do sandbox projects over
Exactly, yes.
I think just to question, probably I got it right, that would do one or two liners for the startups. And based on some of the companies which we talk to and mentoring and in different parts of the startups, one of the key issues which I faced with the people, they talk a lot about their services. They don't talk about their capabilities. Most of the time, the conversation goes towards, we offer this, we can do this, we can do this, we can. Probably that gives you a feeling that they're going to hire people after talking to this point. They don't talk about what they can do today, what is their capability pool, what they're bringing into the table, what is their capability pool. This one I definitely feel for the startups that they should move towards talking about capabilities, what they can bring really, and they're really solving, rather than talking about services. They bring a bouquet of services in front, which is no meaning that one part. The second message I also see when talking to various companies is the lack of, you can use the word market mapping, the opportunity mapping. It is so shoddy. I mean, I should not criticize, but the companies who come in, if you tell them, hey, look, you're going to sell this particular capability out in the field, or say we want to do to USA, or we want whatever the geography they pick up. When you go a little deeper in that, what is your opportunity mapping? This very short, it's very high level. Sorry, it is $1 billion opportunity or something of that kind. But the minute you go, they don't even know who is their customer, how many they exist. You ask them the questions, hey, look, how many of these customers, you talk about US, how many of these customers exist in Arizona? So he says, they look at you and say, oh, as if Arizona is different from US. Then you go specific, even somebody says, okay, there is a lot of market in the California. You say, okay, let's go to a particular geography within California. What about your segment there? And that is where I think another aspect I would say to the startup, the opportunity mapping has to be to the last levels. Then only you can go to GTM will succeed. Otherwise, you continue talking at the very, very high levels.
Sir, again, my question to you is slightly related, but with over 35 years of experience, right? IDS has kind of evolved from a traditional services company. You kind of built the company. You started as an education thing with an IIT and kind of went through. And now you're doing AI, digital solutions, DevOps, everything. How do you manage such a massive technological pivot basically over the years while still kind of maintaining the scale you are today?
Munish, this is a great question. I think I struggled with it for several times. I mean, the first signs of AI, we started working about 3 to 4 years back in a product side, which we started building up in US with the US money. And we built up that product in the industrial segment for the manufacturing side, which was one thing, but it requires a different DNA. Building a product from a traditional BPM or traditional service company like what I built is very different. You needed a different team to do it. I kept staying away from it, except the money was involved, but I kept myself away from it. But that was one starting point which we got into. We use it very strongly as a wedge today to bring our services. That is one part. The other thing which I can also say, it was not easy to transform the old mindsets into a AI mindset. They always say that it's probably not going to happen. Maybe Partap is saying or whatever is saying it. So you need to come in outside in. That was one big learning I got. Inside out transformation was very hard, especially at that level, the kind of work we are doing, because we are it's like an old elephant. And then so you need to bring in from the outside in, and that brought a very big difference. Other thing which we learned, I mean, I think this is what we learned from various platforms also. Many times we shot ourselves on our feet by talking about AI wizardry. I keep talking about it. That is the biggest mistake many of us do, talk about AI wizardry in many ways. Not the client knows, nor we know, and we just kept talking about it. And we tend to forget our core. The core strength has to be always first. And I think that we continue building, and I tell you, even today, whatever tractions we get most of them because of our core strength, which we have been living with all the time. Yes, you can bring in a little dash of AI onto thought. You can bring in some aspects, these are the new products we have built up, new things they have built up, and client feels comfortable. So that, I think these are the 2-3 kind of messages I can mention in my response to your question.
Yeah, thank you. So we're left with around 90 seconds. So I'll just ask a question to all three of you one by one. We'll take one. I just have one more left. So again, to build a global first company out of Chandigarh and India at large, what is the one trait or action that each one of you feel an entrepreneur or a founder must possess to build a global first company out of Chandigarh?
Open to travel.
Open to try. That's
Open to travel.
You stole my you stole my line, but I think I would continue seconding it many times over. Not only open to travel, make sure your travels for the next 2 or 3 trips are already known to you. What days you are traveling, what dates you are going to be here, and I think that I always keep talking. You need to be out there. You need to be, because sitting here is that's one part. And don't sound too much Indian on that point. I'm not against India or something, but you need to be in that job. You need to think in that geography, in that aspect. If you want to think global in that aspect, in many ways.
Vikram.
So I would say we need to raise the level of our work over here, especially from this region. If you look at I still meet a lot of companies who are still into the very traditional IT stuff, and the runway for those traditional IT stuff is going to be very less. I would say, for example, we are still. So my first take will be number one, the founder, the entrepreneur needs to be very disciplined in their own learnings, number one, so that they can understand and connect the dot where the world is moving. Number two, they needs to also raise the level of the skill set which they are having in their own organizations. For example, we in our organization now removing all the traditional professional tags, may it be a BA, PM kind. We are going to groom them where they are leading you to. For example, the kind of technical roles full stack developer or maybe front end, back end developers, they need to be AI augmented engineers, right? And at the same time, the next level for them will be AI system engineer. Then further next step will be for them AI system architect. So that's the kind of role which we need to produce or maybe hone our people towards that thing. And at the same time, I would say once you do that, then look at the world at the holistic. But what I do actually myself, how the regulations are shaping up in various jurisdictions in the world, and how you can stay ready, right, for the opportunity to grab. Because success is equal to when opportunity meets preparedness. If you are not ready, how you can go for it.
Yeah, no, good. Thank you, Vikram. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just thought you were done. So, I think one of the mistakes we make, the definition of global company itself is wrong. By doing X amount of turnovers, being in Punjab, being in Chandigarh, and doing so many countries, offices, having subsidiaries, do not make a company global. I think the world excellence comes in the mind. First thing you should talk about that. Are you at the world standards? All right. And I think somewhere when we continue doing what we are doing, whatever we learned, whatever you are, you don't get to do that. You need to have a lateral hiring of a very different level to bring the excellence. And you may have to step back in some way. I can see that transformation when I'm meeting the guys based out of London or being based out of New York or based out of California. When we work with them, those guys, the standards of excellence we need to bring in. Then only you can get closer to the North Star, which you talk about, the global company. Don't make a mistake of calling yourself a global company, like you have offices or you have clients all over the world. There's no meaning. That's still a outsourcing model, traditional old model, which is definitely threatened right now. To build a global company, you need to be very different. It's outside in view. Very small.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Please put your hands together, and I would like to request our panelists to please kindly step forward and join us. To do the felicitation, I would like to request Mr. Sameer Chen and Mr. Sumit Singh to please kindly come up on the stage and join us for the felicitation. Well, we request our panelists to please kindly come forward and join us. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. I think I need to give you one ice-breaking session, then only I'll be able to connect the next one, because Ritika ma'am knows that we are connecting eye to eye. We need a little dose of ice-breaking session. Let's just do that. Right after the session, I will quickly have that moment to celebrate with you while we are celebrating all the success, and of course, why not to discuss with the digits, because next panel discussion is coming with digits. So, but before that, we request everyone to have a shake before we start. Please put your hands together once again, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together once again. Well, I request all the panelists to please kindly come forward for a group picture. Thank you so much to the dignitaries. It's a request to please be seated again on their respective seats.